So today we'll be going over simplifying squares, and she hadn't done this before. This is the first time introducing this to her in this manner. And if you want to know what program we use for math for this particular homeschool program, we use Saxon Math 3. We are in book 2 at this particular point, and we're midway through school. So don't put any pressure on yourself because I was doing that, but this is her first time. It's probably going to be a little bit challenging for her, but she'll get it. So what I did was today I had to run an errand. So she completed everything on the sheet, on this particular sheet that she knows. So what I did was I had her complete everything that she's already been exposed to on the sheet, and then I told her to just leave the rest and we'll deal with it when I get back. So that's what we're doing now. So I'm going to ask Sam, what is a perfect square? Can you explain that in complete terms?
No.
No. Can you try to explain it?
Sure.
Okay, explain it.
A perfect square is timetables. Just, it's like 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1.
Okay. Can you give me another number?
2 times 2 times 2 equals 1.
Well, not 2 times 2. 2 times 2 equals 4.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
yeah. Can you give me another number?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. So, when we're dealing with square, she's learning how to simplify a square root. So, one of the things that we start off doing on this particular board here, you can see it a little bit. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. One of the things it tells you to do in the first thing is to write down the first 10 perfect squares. And so the first 10 perfect squares, I'm going to have her read off. Here, read off the first 10 perfect squares, Sam, for me. They are
1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, like 49, 65, 64, 81, 100.
So those are the first 10 perfect squares in the numerical system. So one of the things I'm going to tell her, what we're learning here. So you said the square is whenever you can do two numbers, the one single number times itself to give you something. That would be your perfect square. So like you said, 1 times 1 equals what? 1. So that's a perfect square. So what number, if 4 is the next perfect square, what two numbers can give you the 4? What two numbers times, it has to be the same number times itself that can give you 4.
2.
So where we go, 2 times 2 equals 4. So the next number is 9. So the next number is 9, Sam. What number times itself will give you the answer 9?
3 times 3.
That would be correct. So 3 times 3 equals 9. So let's do 16. Can you do 16?
I think so.
Okay, try it. So now, if you're wondering why she's thinking I'm just going to be talking, she wears the glass because we're trying to train her brain to be right-sided thinker. So it's a technique that's used to help her organize her filing system in her brain and help her pull her information up faster. It's a certain way that when we visually see things, they go into our brain. And then if you're a right-sided brain or a left-sided brain, but in your opposite in your handwriting technique, it makes all of your information is in your brain, but it's kind of, the filing system is different. And so you need to, it helps to train her mind how to put things in a certain filing system. So were you able to do the 16?
No.
So if you're doing your timetables, and this is another thing, timetables are your basic math concept, and they have to get those. So we are working on those. And it is a little bit challenging for her considering how her brain works. So the information is in there, but it's almost like if you have a file cabinet and you just throwing the information in there. So you know it's in there, and it takes you a while to pull it out of your system. So one of the things that the eyeglasses is doing, it's used to help her learn how to file things, how to take information in, and to teach her brain what side of her brain to process the information. So if we know that 16, so what is 4 times 4? If you're doing your 4 times tables. So 16, that is correct. So 4 times 4 equals 16. So I'm going to ask you this, and I'm almost certain you know this. What number times itself can give you 25? And I'm going to give her a little help. So if you're using your 5 times tables, what number times is, so 5 times 5 will give you 25, okay? So now, when they say simplify this, so what they did was simplifying, they said 9. What's the square root of 9?
9.
The square root of 9 is what? The square root means the number multiplied by, that is correct. So the square root of 9 is 3. The square root is just simply whatever number multiplied times itself will give you that certain number. So she understood that this symbol and this symbol right here, Sam, which is, I'm going to make it a little bigger so that if you're on TV, on the screen, this symbol means square root. So the square root of 9 is 3. So that's your answer. When they say simplify on that paper, when they say simplify this problem, it's telling you simplify 9. So simplify the square root of 9. So if it's saying simplify the square root of 25, what would your answer be?
5.
Your answer would be 5. So if they tell you simplify the square root of 4, what would your answer be?
2.
Your answer would be no. Yes, I'm sorry. Hi, give me 5. It would be 2. So I am going to try to see if you would know this one. If you got the number 49, so try to think about your times tables. So I gave you the number 49, and I want to tell you, what's the square root of 49? It's a certain number times itself that will give you 49. So she may or may not get this, but when you homeschool, it's okay because this is, we're just getting into this. So we also do a program called CC, and it's memorization. So in that program, they learn, they have to memorize the square roots, but it's like a puzzle, a map, and you put pegs on the map. So they're learning the basic information, and then you go back, and every time you learn something, you put a string on that peg, and then sooner or later there are more strings and more strings and more strings on that peg. So they have a base of information, and then you constantly build on it. So one of the things is 7. So if you notice while I was talking to you, her brain was working, and she understood the square root of 49 is 7. So she knows this information. And so we're gonna go ahead and stop the camera there. And Sam, you did a really good job. Is there anything you want to say to anybody about what it's like trying to memorize the information or pull the information out of your brain?
Meh.
Ma. So ma is her answer. So
Meh, not ma.
Meh.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we thank you for tuning in on our first time of showing Sammy how to simplify square root. So she has been working on her timetables, and I just want to encourage your parents. Some kids learn at different rates, um, and be patient with your children. Sometimes you get down. There's been a lot of things going on in our household, so we had to back away from making the videos. Now we're trying to refocus and get back on task. But as a homeschool, as a educator, because we are our children's educator, and as a homeschool mom, because we're mom and teachers, remember that we're dealing with little souls. And I was reading a book, and one of the things it says that we don't want to score our children in learning. We want them to learn, but we also want them to build their spirits. And sometimes we get overwhelmed with thinking our kids have to be the best, they have to be the scholar, they have to be so successful. Well, we do want them to have all those things, but more than anything, it's important to build their spirit, man, their inner spirit, because they're going to get the information. We're our kids' biggest warriors. So with that said, thank you for tuning in. And this was Square Roots, the step one of her learning how to simplify squares. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Hello.